Oliver was the youngest shoemaker in the quiet village of Brookhaven, a place where narrow cobblestone streets echoed with the sounds of merchants, children, and horse-drawn carts from sunrise until sunset. His tiny workshop stood at the very end of the market square. The wooden sign above the door had faded over the years, and the windows were so small that only thin beams of sunlight reached his workbench. Despite its humble appearance, the little shop was always spotless. Every tool had its place, every piece of leather was neatly stacked, and every pair of shoes Oliver crafted was made with extraordinary care. Although Oliver worked harder than anyone else in the village, customers rarely entered his shop. Most people bought shoes from the wealthy merchant, Mr. Carter, whose grand store displayed colorful boots, shiny leather slippers, and polished sandals behind sparkling glass windows. His prices were low because he ordered shoes in huge quantities from distant factories. Oliver couldn't compete with those prices, but he refused to sacrifice quality just to earn more money. Every morning before opening his shop, Oliver would whisper to himself, "If I make every pair as if it were for my own family, success will come one day." Many people smiled politely when they heard his words, but few believed them. One rainy afternoon, an elderly traveler walked into the workshop. His gray cloak was soaked from the rain, and his boots were torn so badly that his feet were nearly visible through the leather. "Young man," the traveler said gently, "could you repair these boots?" "I'm afraid I have only a few coins left." Oliver examined the boots carefully. They had been repaired many times before, and fixing them properly would take several hours. "You don't have enough money," Oliver admitted. The old man lowered his head. "I understand. I'll keep walking." But Oliver smiled. "Please sit by the fire. I'll repair them anyway." The traveler looked surprised. "Why would you spend your time helping someone who cannot pay?" Oliver shrugged. "A long journey is difficult enough without painful feet." The old man watched quietly while Oliver worked. Every stitch was careful, every patch fit perfectly. By evening, the boots looked almost new. The traveler stood, slipped them on, and smiled. "They feel better than when I first bought them." He reached into his pocket and handed Oliver a small wooden token carved with the image of an owl. "When life gives you a difficult choice," the traveler said softly, "remember that wisdom always sees farther than greed." Before Oliver could ask what he meant, the traveler disappeared into the evening mist. Oliver placed the wooden token on a shelf and returned to work. Weeks passed, and business remained slow. Some days he earned barely enough money to buy bread and soup. Still, he never rushed his work or used cheaper materials. Then one morning, the entire village buzzed with excitement. A royal messenger rode into the square carrying an important announcement. The king invites every shoemaker in the kingdom to create a pair of traveling boots for Prince Adrian. The finest pair will earn 1,000 gold coins and become the official royal shoemaker. The crowd erupted with excitement. Mr. Carter laughed loudly. "The competition is already over," he boasted. "No one can beat my resources." Several villagers nodded. Oliver quietly read the announcement again. His best friend, Lily, approached him. "You should enter." Oliver hesitated. "I only have enough leather to make one pair." "Then make one perfect pair." Her words stayed in his mind all night. The next morning, Oliver selected the finest leather he owned. Instead of decorating the boots with expensive jewels or golden buckles, he focused on what truly mattered. He softened the leather until it bent naturally. He strengthened every seam with double stitching. He tested each sole again and again to make sure it would survive muddy roads, rocky hills, and snowy mountains. For 10 days he worked from sunrise until long after midnight. His fingers became sore, his eyes burned from exhaustion. But he refused to hurry. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter employed dozens of workers who produced magnificent-looking boots covered in silver decorations and embroidered patterns. "They'll be amazed," Carter declared proudly. When the day of the competition finally arrived, hundreds of craftsmen gathered at the royal palace. Long tables displayed boots of every style imaginable. Some glittered with precious stones. Others were made from rare imported leather. Oliver quietly placed his simple brown boots among them. Several competitors laughed. Did he forget the decorations? "Those look ordinary." Oliver ignored them. The royal judges inspected every pair. Some looked beautiful but felt stiff. Others were fashionable but heavy. Finally, Prince Adrian himself stepped forward. "I'll choose by walking." One by one, he tested every pair. Some pinched his feet. Others slipped on the polished palace floor. Then he tried Oliver's boots. His expression changed immediately. He walked across the great hall. He climbed the marble staircase. He even ran into the royal garden. When he returned, he smiled broadly. "These are the most comfortable boots I've ever worn." Mr. Carter stepped forward angrily. But look at mine, they're far more expensive. The prince shook his head. I'm preparing to travel across forests, rivers, and mountains. I need boots that protect my feet, not impress my eyes. The king nodded. Wisdom has chosen well. Oliver was declared the winner. The palace erupted with applause. For the first time in his life, Oliver believed his dream had become reality. His tiny workshop quickly became famous across the kingdom. Travelers waited outside for hours to buy his shoes. Instead of becoming proud, Oliver remained exactly as humble as before. He hired several young apprentices from poor families and patiently taught them every skill he knew. The leather remembers every shortcut, he often said. If you rush today, someone will suffer tomorrow. His students listened carefully. Months later, Mr. Carter's business began to fail. Customers discovered that his factory-made shoes wore out quickly, while Oliver's lasted for years. One evening, Carter stood nervously outside Oliver's workshop. Oliver opened the door. Can I help you? Carter looked embarrassed. I've lost nearly everything. Oliver waited quietly. I spent years chasing profit instead of quality. Now no one trusts me anymore. There was a long silence. Finally Carter asked, would you teach me? Lily looked shocked. This is the man who mocked you. Oliver remembered every insult. He remembered the lonely days when customers ignored his shop. He remembered the laughter during the royal competition. But he also remembered the old traveler's words about wisdom. If you're willing to learn honestly, Oliver replied, you're welcome here. Carter stared at him in disbelief. You'd forgive me? I'd rather gain a friend than keep an enemy. The following months weren't easy. Carter had always searched for shortcuts. He stitched too quickly. He skipped careful measurements. Each time, Oliver patiently corrected him. Slow down. Measure again. Quality is invisible until the day it's needed. Gradually Carter changed. For the first time, he experienced the satisfaction of creating something with his own hands. He no longer cared about making the fastest shoe. He wanted to make the best one. Nearly a year later, the mysterious traveler returned. His boots still looked almost new. Oliver immediately recognized him. You came back. The old man smiled warmly. I wanted to see what became of the young shoemaker who repaired a stranger's boots without asking for payment. Oliver picked up the small wooden token. I've kept this ever since. The traveler turned it over. Carved into the other side were words Oliver had never noticed before. Character is the strongest foundation. Oliver looked puzzled. The traveler removed his cloak, revealing the royal emblem on his coat. I serve as one of the king's advisors. Oliver blinked in surprise. I travel through the kingdom disguised as an ordinary man. The king wanted someone whose kindness came naturally, not someone who behaved well only when important people were watching. Oliver finally understood. You tested me. The advisor smiled. No, life tested you. I only witnessed the result. He glanced around the workshop. Young apprentices laughed as they worked together. Carter patiently helped one of the newer students correct a mistake. Customers chatted happily while waiting. This, the advisor said softly, is why the king chose wisely. Before leaving, he added one final piece of advice. A clever person can solve problems. A wise person prevents them. Never forget the difference. With that, he disappeared down the same road where Oliver had first met him. Years passed, and Oliver became known throughout the kingdom as the clever shoemaker. People admired his craftsmanship, but even more, they admired his honesty, patience, and generosity. His apprentices opened workshops in neighboring towns, teaching others the same values they had learned from him. Even Carter became one of the kingdom's finest craftsmen, always reminding young workers that success built on greed never lasts. Whenever children visited Oliver's workshop, they would ask, Master Oliver, what is the secret to becoming clever? He would smile, hold up the old wooden token with the carved owl, and reply, being clever isn't about tricking others or finding the easiest path. True cleverness means thinking with your heart as well as your mind. It means working hard when no one is watching, choosing honesty when lies seem easier, helping people even when you gain nothing in return, and never letting success change who you are. The children always listened carefully because they knew those words came from a man who had lived them every single day. And so, the little workshop at the end of the market square became more than a place where shoes were made. It became a place where kindness was practiced, wisdom was shared, and dreams were stitched together one careful step at a time. Long after Oliver's finest shoes had worn out, people still remembered the clever shoemaker, not because he was the richest craftsman in the kingdom, but because he proved that honesty, patience, and compassion will always carry a person farther than pride or greed ever can.